Betrayal in the college apartment, my girlfriend, my best friend's girl, and the neighbor next door. Introduction. Summarizing the initial situation. I lived in a college apartment with my girlfriend and another couple, my best friend and his girlfriend. Everything seemed perfect. We split rent 4 ways. My girlfriend was Alexis, who I had been dating for 2 years, and our mutual friend Brooke. Our best friend Derek started dating Brooke. He sold his house in October and moved in with us temporarily to split rent. It was ideal, or so I thought, until I found out my girlfriend was sleeping with the guy next door while I was in class. The initial suspicion. Things started to get weird. There were 3 incidents that made me start thinking something was wrong. If it weren't for these incidents, I would have never considered this because Alexis is sweet and shy, and Derek has been a brother to me. Incident 1, the skipped class and the homesick friend. Alexis told me that she skipped class, but later I ran into Brooke, who said Derek was sick. Alexis said Derek was here in the morning, but went to run errands later. Incident 2, the condom wrapper. I found a condom wrapper of our brand in the kitchen garbage can. Brooke and Derek used free condoms from the University Health Center. Alexis and I hadn't slept together in days. When I mentioned the condom, Alexis got unusually distressed and shut down the idea of talking to Brooke and Derek. Incident 3, the neighbor's comment. During a conversation with one of my neighbors, he mentioned one of the couples in the apartment is a fan of morning sex. Alexis and I hadn't had morning sex in a month. Brooke and Derek spend the weekends at her parents' house. Did he mean on weekdays? The confirmation. The signs kept piling up. I decided to go home and check on Alexis. Derek's car wasn't there. Just Alexis. I heard a guy's voice inside. Laughter and feminine mumbles. I've been on this subreddit long enough to see reactions to situations like this. I heard the sound of Alexis being tickled. I heard Alexis being tickled and shrieking. I pressed my ear to the door, but couldn't make out what they were saying. The apartment was silent when I started fiddling with my keys. I opened the door. It was Mark, one of the neighbors. They gave me a deer-in-headlights look. My eyes welled up with tears, so I said, "Nice, real nice," and bolted. Alexis started blowing on my phone, but I blocked her out. I went to a friend's house. My whole world was crashing down around me. The aftermath, original post updates. Update 1. I had considered speaking to Brooke or catching Alexis and Mark in the act. One night, Brooke told Derek to go to bed early because he had work in the morning. Derek has always worked the same night shifts. I went to bed feeling emotionally drained and confused. The next morning, I went to my first class and then went home to check on Alexis. It turned out Derek's car wasn't there. I could hear a guy's voice inside the apartment. There was talking, laughing, and giggling between Alexis and Mark. I couldn't take it anymore and opened the door, finding Alexis with Mark, the guy from next door. They both looked shocked. I was overcome with emotion, said nice sarcastically, and left. Alexis called after me. I went to a park to process everything. My first thought was about how my family would react. I'm staying at a friend's house now. Alexis has been blowing up my phone. She initially asked me to come home to explain, then begged me to return because she was having an anxiety attack. She later texted saying that they were just hanging out and that Mark needed advice on his girl problems. She asked me to believe her. Later that night, the nice neighbor texted me. He got my number from Derek and apologized. He admitted he suspected something was going on, but wasn't sure until he learned Alexis's name. I haven't spoken to Derek or Brooke yet. I'm not sure how to approach the situation, especially given the living situation and friendships involved. Update 2. I understand some of you think it's dumb that I haven't contacted Derek and Brooke yet. I felt a final conversation with Alexis might give me better closure and help her understand that it's completely over and get her move on. So, I met with her at a coffee shop. I made it clear that we could never be together after what happened. She tried to hug me, but I stopped her. She asked if she had been unhappy with our relationship. Then she told me the BS story about her fear of turning guys down. I asked her to cut the BS and take responsibility. She shrugged and said, "You're right, I know." She started crying and asked if we could ever be together again. I shook my head. She said she already had plans to move in with another girlfriend of hers. The conversation went in circles with her, trying to explain her actions. I wanted her to admit that she had ruined a perfect, good relationship with a very real future. Finally, I let it go, and we parted ways somewhat amicably. The conversation actually made me see that she was never the kind of person I wanted to be with, even without the cheating. She never took responsibility for anything. Afterward, I hung out with Derek. Brooke stayed in her room. We drank some beers and played some video games. I talked a bit about everything that happened. He admitted they hadn't been able to find a third roommate and asked me again to stay with them. I accepted. I told them I needed to wait until Alexis took all her things. Brooke apologized for getting so involved in the situation and yelling at Alexis, as her stepdad had cheated on her mom. And it's a sore subject for her. Mark had to be harassed to pay rent, claimed he couldn't contribute to household expenses, and regularly came in yelling and laughing at odd hours. He's just a standard douchebag roommate. I called Will. He's a really cool guy. He and I talked a lot about the situation. I did tell my folks about the situation. My mom asked me 1,000 questions and cried a lot, so that was fun. Going home made me feel a little better, but my older brother got engaged on Christmas Eve, and given the recent circumstances, I wasn't as excited for him as I should have been, which made me feel like a shitty sibling. I'm doing better. Alexis moved her things out, and I bought a secondhand bed and dresser. I had my first round of classes last week, and although I'm going to sound like a total nerd, the courses are really cool, hands-on, and the professors are incredibly cool people. Derek and Brooke have been really supportive and don't make me feel like a third wheel. I saw Mark in the hallway once, and he totally ignored me, and I ignored him, but the urge to punch him in the face was very real. Update 3. Derek was blowing up my phone with calls and texts that made it very apparent he didn't know anything. At the same time, Alexis was sending texts begging me to meet up with her. I sent back a single text to Derek saying I wasn't feeling up to talking then, put my phone away for the night. In the morning, I got a text saying to meet him at my favorite restaurant for dinner and drinks on him assuring me that no one would be there, not even Brooke. I decided to go after classes. Derek came up to me and gave me a big hug and opened with "Dude with the FK." As soon as he told Brooke, she was absolutely furious. Derek said that Brooke demanded Alexis pack her things and find a new place, or she'd call up her parents and tell them everything, because her parents had no idea that we were living together and she'd see. Constantly stressed that they couldn't know or they'd cut her off financially. Derek told me that later that night Alexis was sitting in the living room hugging a sweater I'd left behind and wailing at the top of her lungs that her life was over when Brooke yelled from her bedroom. Well, maybe you shouldn't have fed Mark then. During that dinner, all my fears that had lost my friends were completely washed away, and I was able to choke down a few pieces of sushi. I declined his offer to move back in the apartment because, one, even if she does move out, everything in that apartment reminds me of her, including Derek and Brooke. 2, Alexis and Mark, probably F***D in my room. And 3, in the current emotional state, I don't want to be third-wheeling a happy couple. He understood my points, but said to let him know if I changed my mind, because Brooke and Alexis' friendship seems to be pretty over. This week has been pretty uneventful, but I keep having to dodge Alexis, luckily. I got a text saying she has been spotted in front of a classroom, and there were waterworks in progress. I ended up skipping the class because I didn't know if she was going to leave, and I really didn't want to risk it. Later that night, she sent me a really long Facebook message explaining everything from the beginning. She said that he'd been flirty with her in the halls, and she tried to be friendly back, but it must have come off as flirting because he kissed her mid-sentence one day. She said she understood if I needed some time and some space, but that she'd do absolutely anything to make it right and would spend the rest of her life making it up to me by treating me like a king. She even suggested we install Life 360, an app that allows you to track someone's location through their phone, so I would know where she is at all times. I didn't answer. I kind of wanted to keep her on Facebook and watch the show unfold, so I blocked her. Derek sent me a text a few hours later saying she's crying and screaming about you blocking her LOL, and he said, "Happy your news?" The family I'm staying with is fantastic, and I offered to put down rent and pay for some bills, but they declined. I am unbelievably grateful. As for Will, the awesome neighbor, I called to thank him for everything. I apologize profusely. He says he can't stand Mark, not just for what he did with Alexis, but various other things that I won't go into. He told me that Mark has been unusually quiet the past few days and told another one of the guys that he had gotten dumped. I'm still going to be friends with Derek and Brooke, but I'm going to limit my contact with them because they remind me of Alexis so much. I sent Brooke a message thanking her for kicking Alexis out, and she said she'd do it regardless of whether or not I moved back in. I'm spending a lot of time studying, applying to grad schools, and hanging out with the guy I'm living with. Earlier this week, I posted onto my university's Facebook group searching for roommates for next semester. Thank you for all the messages. Final thoughts. I'm doing better now. Alexis moved out, and I bought new furniture. I'm focusing on my studies and spending time with supportive friends. I'm moving on. Breaking US.